I think influencer marketing is going to be a lot more performance driven. It's not just about the hype or aesthetics anymore. It's really about real business impact.
Welcome to We Built This Brand, the podcast where we talk to the creators and collaborators behind brands and provide you with practical insights that you can use in growing your business. Now, today we're talking with Vince Wang, Chief Marketing Officer at Mustard, an app that brings local restaurants and influencers together in a unique ecosystem with measurable results. Now, Vince and I met at the Power Forward conference in Los Angeles, and while I didn't get a chance to interview him there, he graciously agreed to talk to me a little bit later in the week, and we had a lot of fun catching up and learning about his business. And after learning about it, I'll be honest, and I want to be clear, I'm not getting paid to say this. I think that Mustard may be one of the best solutions for local restaurants who want to connect with influencers to grow awareness for their business and, of course, build their brand. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Vince Wang of Mustard. All right, well, welcome to We Built This Brand. I'm your host, as always, Chris Hill, and with me today is Vince Wang. Vince, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Happy to be chatting to you today. Really excited to talk to you about the company that you're the Chief Marketing Officer at, Mustard.love. But before we dive into that, I always love to just hear the story of how people got to where they are. This doesn't have to be a long, drawn out, everything in my life story, but just, if you could real quickly, tell us about where you got your start.
Yeah, I actually got into marketing because of the TV show Mad Men. I remember watching it and thinking, wow, that looks exciting. Working at an ad agency, pitching big ideas, and sipping old fashions in the office. And I just thought that's something you could create and go out into the world and shape how people think or act. That really stuck with me. So I'm pretty sure that show single-handedly created a new wave of whiskey drinkers. But what I didn't really expect was really how the field had evolved by the time I actually got started in marketing. My first real role was an analyst at WebTrends, which was at the time the leading enterprise analytics platform before Google Analytics really took over. I was part of their agency arm, helping clients launch ROI-driven paid ad campaigns, and we had some wild clients while I was there. Everything from dance supply stores to online printers to DUI lawyers. It was a crash course in marketing across very different business models.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, the real differentiator was really the data because we were an analytics company. We had incredible visibility into what was really working. We weren't just launching campaigns. We were tying every single click, every dollar directly to business outcomes. And that was my first real exposure to performance marketing for our clients, not just getting traffic, but really driving real results. And that mindset, measurability, outcome focused marketing has really guided everything I've done since then.
Yeah, I think performance marketing is one of those things that can be really, really good if used well, but it can also be a very challenging tool to use because you got to tie everything together and connect all the dots in the right way. I've seen some shady uses of it in the past, and I'm not at all saying you're doing that, but I've seen some situations where people are like, well, that's not a lead because of blah, 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 blah. And, just the way that it can be used. I love being able to make that one-to-one connection of your marketing dollars went here and they made this happen. So that's really cool that's kind of your background and everything. So what brought you to Mustard.love?
Yeah, Mustard, I was brought in because of my previous startup experience. So I was with a real estate company that was doing marketplace matching with real estate agents to home sellers and buyers. A company was called Upnest. I was there for over 7 years and we had an exit. So as a part of the exit, I had free time and the CEO approached me and said, hey, do you want to continue to build another two-sided marketplace with Mustard.love? And I said, yes, why not? Let's continue the run. And so I came into the company. The company was founded by David in 2020. At that time, it was a different business model than what it is now. They were really focused on monetizing their content by linking to deliver apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash. But here's the thing. We learned very quickly that influencers don't want to pay to create content. They want to get paid. And that model just didn't click. The real turning point came when we flipped the model and started helping restaurants bring in influencers instead. That pivot from creator focus to restaurant focus is when the business really took off. It gave us clarity, product market fit, and a huge opportunity to actually solve a pain point that restaurant owners deal with every day.
I mean, it's a big challenge. We'll dive into it a little bit more. But first, why the name Mustard.love?
Yeah, we were looking for a name that felt approachable, a little bit playful, and clearly tied to food, but had some warmth to it. Mustard just felt right. It's bold, it's familiar, it brings different flavors together, and in a way, what we're doing, connecting restaurants and local creators to make something meaningful, makes sense. The love part, well, that was intentional. Food is something people generally love. It brings people together and creates a shared experience. We want the name to reflect that spirit.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it does. I've mentioned Mustard Love a few times to folks around me, and they've been like, I know it has something to do with food, but I don't think I know what it is. And I'm like, exactly. I mean, you're already part of the way there when you've got them caught with, oh, it's about food. Like that's a very definitive part of the name. So that's cool. We've talked to the high level what it is, but exactly what is Mustard Love today? Like why would I come and use Mustard Love as a service?
Yeah, so Mustard.love is really about bringing influencers to restaurants. And what we're trying to really do is create the overall diner experience by reducing the friction and churn related to offloading with restaurant operators. What we're trying to really do is a lot of restaurant owners don't have time to figure out their influencer strategies. They don't have time to vet creators or negotiate deals or track ROI. And so we built the platform to really run the entire influencer campaign in minutes. Think of it as a platform similar to Uber. One click, you go in and give us your creative brief, and we handle everything from influencer vetting to influencers showing up, posting, and really tracking results.
I mean, that's taking a lot of weight off of the restaurant. And I'm sure, and I speak with some experience on this because I used to host a craft beer podcast. So I used to probably be one of the people you would consider an influencer in this space to an extent because I had craft beer. We were influential. People knew that we were going to talk about the beer and whether it was good or bad or not. So that's probably who in the past the restaurant owners had to go to directly and invite them in or wait for them to deign themselves worthy of, being brought into the situation. Right. So I'm sure that's a huge help for the business owners.
Oh, huge. We've had in one of our clients, Sushi Baibu in New York, they ran a campaign with us, $26,000, and within 90 days, they saw a 3x return. We've been running a campaign with them for about a year now, and they gave us the latest update 1 year in, they saw 12x ROI.
Tell me more about the influencer piece too, because it's really interesting. I mean, influencers are interesting to begin with, but are these big name influencers you all are working with? Is that why it's working so well?
It's actually not. What we see is that it's all about engagement. We did many tests. We've had big influencers come in, and we've had nano or micro influencers as the trending way of influencers coming. And what we see is that sometimes the local micro influencers are a lot more effective because their audience are more localized to where the local restaurants are located. So if you can imagine Kim Kardashian talking about your local restaurants, probably a small percentage of the audience from their follower pool is actually from Knoxville in this case, if there's a Knoxville. So you just spent $1 million getting Kim Kardashian to promote your restaurant, but only a very small percentage will actually show up. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to solve is we want to work with micro and nano influencers that are actually local with local followers that will actually ultimately drive diners to the restaurants themselves.
Something I've always been fascinated by is the micro markets that exist, these smaller audiences, these smaller markets where, it doesn't take a big person to really influence a lot of people to make a decision. It just takes the right people to do it, right? And so I think it sounds like a lot of what you all are really addressing. So when you say micro influencer, like how small do you have to be to start doing this? And how big do you typically see people max out at?
Yeah, so generally the rule of thumb we see is dependent on market, right? I mean, if you're talking about a Knoxville versus a Los Angeles, the population sizes varies widely. So when we talk about a micro influencers of 100K is is probably a celebrity in Knoxville at that point. But in LA, it's generally a pretty standard size influencers there. So it really depends on metro. And when people ask us, I only want more than 100K followers, but if they're in the middle of nowhere, it's not a really economical ask for us to do so. So a lot of times it's we have to look at the population pool, and we standardize the benchmark against it. And what we see is at a minimum, I believe 2,000 is the lowest we've seen, where they are quite influential in a small town. And the standard size we've seen is about 40,000 followers across nationally level.
That's good to know. My day business works a lot with, creators and influencers and things like that. And I always try to encourage people, especially if they're starting out in that journey of it takes a while, but you can be influential even with less than 100,000 followers. So it's cool to hear you say that that's what you're seeing in the numbers too.
Yeah, it was a very interesting case in San Francisco. There was influencers that had 15,000 followers, and the restaurant owner complained that they didn't have enough followers, and it went viral. That unfortunately, it went viral the wrong way. So that restaurant is now closed, and the chef was fired.
Oh my gosh. Because they were upset that they were getting too small of influencers in.
Yeah, and the influencers posts complained about how they were demeaning to the influencers themselves, and the influencers posts got way more than 50,000 views, and it was very influential, especially around the local community.
Yeah, well, those are the things you got to watch out for when you're interfacing with influencers, right?
Yes, you have to treat them like any food critic. It can make and break your business, regardless of how big they are.
So if I was a small business coming to you and wanted to start an account, how does that process work?
Yeah, it's fairly easy. We're trying to automate as much as we can. So if you think of how easy it is to find an Uber ride, we're trying to get to that point. Is you go on our platform, you onboard, even our onboarding is automated. You answer a couple of questions about the type of influencers you're looking for, type of cuisine, ethnicity, the type of campaign, what sort of shots you want them to do, and fill out this creative brief. The creative brief goes out to all of the influencers around the network. And similar to a job application, the influencers will apply, say, I'm interested or not interested, and raise their hand. Then the restaurant owners themselves can either decide to choose themselves or let AI decide to pick which influencers match the best based on the creative brief. And everything is automated after that, just like Uber ride. You don't have to call the taxi cab driver, where to meet you, where I'm getting dropped off. All of that is completely automated.
That's cool. So even on the influencer side, then I guess they have an account they log into and they can see what opportunities come their way, but all that's automated. There's no real need for a middleman in the process. Want to launch a podcast without the hassle? HumblePod makes podcasting easy. From concept to launch, we'll help you create a professional, engaging show. Already have a podcast? We handle editing, show notes, transcriptions, and even video production, so you can focus on your content. With our tailored services, you get high-quality production, seamless publishing, and expert support at every step. Whether you're starting fresh or leveling up, HumblePod ensures your podcast sounds amazing and reaches the right audience. Visit humblepod.com to get started today.
Exactly. There's a contract that an influencer sees of all the restaurants that want to have influencers come in. They would apply all of its automatic show up here. Here's the food credit that you would get. Here's the cash comp if there's any for your time. And once they eat, it would ping the food influencer about here's when your due date for your content is going to be posted. And for the restaurant, they see all of the tracking performance of how they're posted.
For some influencer wanting to do that, that's great, because not all, especially smaller influencers, don't have agents. They don't have people to do that work for them either. So you're really taking care of both sides of the equation for people.
For sure, yeah.
So when it comes to marketing Mustard Love, how do you get out and stand out in the field? I mean, you do an excellent job, it sounds like, for the influencers and connecting them with brands, but how do you do your own marketing and branding?
Yeah, generally, I think it starts with trying to solve restaurant problems. Number one is once you solve the problem, restaurants tend to have word of mouth about, hey, I know about this great platform. What I find is that a lot of times restaurant owners have been burned in the past. Either they're doing it themselves or influencers not showing up and eating for free and not not posting for one, or even agencies coming in promising celebrities and not seeing results. So word of mouth is huge for us. We generally take a mindset of if we can solve a restaurant problem and drive diners, they will pass us along and spread the word. A lot of times we rely on testimonials and reviews.
That's cool. So it's a lot of word of mouth. It sounds like getting the marketing spread. Cool. So what have you learned in this process of helping Mustard Love grow to where it is today?
Yeah, I think a lot of times is one thing we learned is another marketing strategy we did was offer a free trial. I think that's the easiest way for a lot of restaurants to come in. But what we find is that doesn't work, because what ended up happening was the restaurants would come in and try us, but the influencers would apply, but the restaurants did not have skin in the game. They didn't really engage with our platform or try to get the influencers to come in. And what happened was a lot of influencers were burned. It's like, hey, what's happening? I applied and I didn't get selected. It's like going to a job interview and what happened with my application? Am I getting an interview or not? So it was very one-sided and less engagement on the restaurant side. So what we learned is we no longer offer a free trial because of that. I feel like in a marketplace, it needs to be balanced. The restaurant needs to have engagement on both mentally engaged as well to be really focused on balancing, and then the influencers there to promote their own content but also make new content with the restaurants in the area.
I mean, to me that makes sense, because you want to have skin in the game and you want people to know you're not just doing this out of the goodness of your heart to connect people, right? Like there's a reason you exist, there's a reason your service has value. And, if you provide free trial to everybody, that I would imagine that has its own cost to begin with too. So like, I understand how that could be on both sides, but that's an interesting idea of like not having the free trial as opposed to having it be the thing that, saves the day, as, some people might say.
Yeah, we thought the free trial would really work, but it's a balance. The restauants didn't have engagement.
Yeah. I mean, from what I noticed too of the pricing, it seemed to be pretty fair, I think, for a starting restaurant. It takes away from what their normal marketing ad budget would be, but it's nothing so significant that from working with you all, I'm sure they make up that revenue pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, our current plan started at just $2.99, which honestly is just a few delivery orders if they ever do Uber Eats or DoorDash. And instead of just sending out food, you're bringing in new customers. And ultimately, it's one of our most cost-effective marketing channels, because when we compare our costs, our CPM's at $3.4 versus doing ad or commercials where it can go into the double digits.
So that's cool. It's a really unique way to reach people, to reach restaurants. And for folks in that industry, I'm sure it's a huge boon for them. So that's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit more. I always like to pick the brain of the person I'm interviewing, and would love to just learn a little bit more from you. Like, where are you right now? Just like, what is top of mind for you as we look at the future of, say, this influencer market and where things are today with that?
Yeah, I think influencer marketing is going to be a lot more performance driven. It's not just about the hype or aesthetics anymore. It's really about real business impact. Restaurants especially are looking for growth channels that don't involve giving up 30% of their revenue to deliver apps. And influencer marketing, when done right, is one of the most efficient ways to drive new customers. At Mustard, we're shaping that model. Startups are living and breathing things. One of the biggest things that, aside from that, is we're trying to launch an AI-powered influencer selector tool, where imagine if a restaurant can just log in, look at a creator, and we can project the ROI for that restaurant based on all the data points that we have. Once they click on it, there's no back and forth involved, and the influencer show, and we can see like how close they are to hitting the ROI for them.
That would be crazy. Now, would that be based on like, I guess, the data and analytics that you have from other customers in the region and past performances as well? Or I'm just curious how that's calculated.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So one of the benefits of a marketplace is that we have a lot of data to work with in the area. We can look at the cuisine type and break down a lot of these different data points and be able to project a pretty accurate ROI. Plus, we have influencer data, right? We know exactly the past performance of each of these influencers with that specific type of cuisine. So, I mean, it's not 100%. Nothing in life is guaranteed, but similar how people do financial modeling for stock market or project how a stock will do. We do it for here. The reason we're doing this is my background is also my last startup with real estate agents. We were pretty accurate in predicting how well a top agent performs versus other agents in the area.
You know, in the real estate industry, which we have a hot real estate market here. A lot of people from California moving into our neighborhood. But, you know, that said, like, there's a lot of things there that I'm fascinated with personally, just because I feel like for the small podcaster that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, like, there's always what's in it for me? How can I get to a point where I'm getting a return on what I'm doing and the content I'm creating? And I think as you all go further into those analytics, you're going to be able to see more and have probably a deeper level of analytics on influencers, more so than just on how effective they are with food. It may not look like that way at first, but I can see there being a lot of implications to that kind of analytics and AI that you're doing.
That's the future of us internally, but also I think as we're one of the earlier companies to focus on really using data with influencer marketing, we have more data to work with.
And that's a huge advantage to have too. There was a company years ago that was trying to do this thing of like ranking influencers, and everybody had a social rank and a number. What you're talking about kind of reminds me of that similar concept of like, hey, if you have, you know, a score of this, then all of a sudden all these offers were available to you to be able to participate in or do, or you might get free tickets somewhere as a result of having a score at a certain level and things like that. So yeah, that's a fascinating thing to be doing and tracking. So I'm sure that data will be very valuable in addition to everything else you're doing too.
Oh, of course. That's just one data point. There's also there's the restaurant side of things too.
And like, as you think about the future of Mustard.love, I mean, if you can speak to it, like, is there plans to use that kind of data and analytics as that side of it grows?
I think that's one of the main value propositions of a tech company is that we can utilize all of these data points from both sides of the marketplace, both influencers and restaurant. And when you look at as a whole, once we can combine this and go after new restaurants, for example, we get mom and pop shops that are coming in, or even agencies that are looking to do this, and they say, "Oh, well, I'm already on a budget. Why should I do this?" We have a lot of data points to alleviate some of the risks involved in getting started. And plus, our right now, our platform is relatively low barrier of entry. Like $300 a month is it's not going to break the bank. At least I hope so for most restaurants.
I mean, that's like an ad or two in a paper even. I mean, I know we're talking digital, but for a local advertiser or a local restaurant, they may be even just thinking like, how can I get in the newspaper? Not just how can I be visible online?
And compared to the local newspaper, I think influencer marketing is going to be a lot more effective. You're getting a video, you're getting someone local talking about it who already has an existing followership.
And we talk about this all the time in our industry too, but like, you want to get people where they're at, and you want to get people that are into food. And who are those people looking to? The other people that are into food and their social media market and their social media channels. And the more you can get to them, that's actually a more effective avenue than trying to spend all your time and dollars just running Facebook and LinkedIn. And you probably wouldn't run LinkedIn for food, but, you know, Facebook and Twitter and wherever else you want to put your money. Like, there are better uses of it. And I think this definitely sounds like one of them.
For sure. Yeah. That's what we're seeing.
Excellent. Well, Vince, thank you so much. This has been fascinating to learn a little bit more about Mustard.love. Before we go, I always like to ask this question. I mean, We Built This Brand. We're talking about branding and marketing. What would you say is a brand that you most admire right now?
Yeah, so my background is in marketplaces, and one of the biggest marketplaces is Uber. They built not just a product, but completely changed the industry. They understood the complexity of the transportation industry and made it effortless. And that's what we at Mustard.love strive to, is that how can we make it super seamless for both the influencers and the restaurant side to connect with one another.
Well, very cool. And yeah, Uber's a great company. I've used them plenty when I travel, like I did to LA, but then I got choked. I mean, Uber's a great company. They're definitely, a huge part of how I get around when I travel. So yeah, I can definitely see that. It definitely has kept me from even having to rent a car. Like that hassle is just not even in my purview anymore unless I'm going somewhere really far out of the location where I fly into. It's quite useful. So yeah. Well, Vince, thank you so much. Where can people connect with you? Where can people connect with mustard.love and get to know you all better?
You can connect with us on our website, mustard.love, which is in the name itself. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at vince@mustard.love.
All righty, Vince. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for checking out this episode of We Built This Brand. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your player of choice. You can also keep up with the podcast on WeBuiltThisBrand.com. If you like this episode, please give the podcast a 5-star review and make sure to tell all your friends about it so we can continue to build this brand.